Today's episode of the Paigncast is sponsored by Corey Roberts, your neighborhood mortgage banker from 217 Mortgage, who wants to be your go-to mortgage lender. Corey has been a guest on the podcast before. He gave me the sweet firefighter helmet that is now part of the set, and he's got a fantastic social media presence. You should all go follow him, and more importantly, he's got some really cool stuff that he is going to be doing around our city in 2022. So find him on Facebook, find him on Instagram. He also has a website that is flatbranchhomeloans.com/Corey-Roberts. Again, flatbranchhomeloans.com/Corey-Roberts. Go follow him. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Paigncast. This is a podcast where we shine a light on the people that brighten up our city. I'm super excited to have today's guest on. I have known her for over 10 years. We both went to school at Illinois State University together before settling down here in Champaign. She is a biology teacher at Central High School. Please welcome Miss Jamie Pomahac. Jamie, thank you for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me.
How are you?
I'm well,
Good.
Thank you. Healthy.
Good. That's what we want the most. Listen,
Yep.
Before we get started here, I got a lot of questions for you. Plug, promote anything you want for the people, if they want to find you on social media, if you want to promote that, or just anything at all that you feel like promoting to the public.
Okay, I can think of two things. First is that our school district is in desperate need of substitutes and teachers and bus drivers and cafeteria workers. So I would like to plug employment for my school district. But then secondly, I just started a YouTube channel, and if I can plug that, it's called Mimi's Garden is my channel. And I only have one video as of right now. I hope to do about one a week. It's all about gardening in our zone, 5B in Central Illinois.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very, very fun. So listen, as I mentioned before, teacher at Central High School. I want to go to the very beginning. Tell me about how you kind of got on the path of deciding that you wanted to teach.
It was always on my mind because I grew up in a family of educators, specifically high school educators. My mom was a special educator turned administrator. I have aunts and uncles who are high school teachers, cousins who are high school teachers. I have a big family, and a good proportion of us are teachers.
Nice.
So that was always kind of on my mind. But then freshman year of high school, when it was my first year of public school. I had gone to Catholic school for the previous 8 years.
Okay, gotcha.
And then in my freshman biology class, I'm like, wait a second, this is really cool stuff, right? I think I'm learning about evolution for the first time instead of creation. And this is really neat. I just gained a better understanding for our world and for nature.
Yeah.
And my teacher noticed it. She noticed I really liked it. She noticed I worked hard. It was just a grade level course. It wasn't honors or anything, but I ended up getting an A. And she really kind of encouraged me to continue learning science and being passionate about science. And from actually that moment, I said, okay, I'll be a biology teacher. And so I applied for biological sciences for my major, secondary education, never changed. Here I am.
Was that like the most impactful teacher to you during your like scholastic career, the one that kind of encouraged you?
Yeah, definitely. Miss Mays, shout out.
Gotcha. Shout out Miss Mays.
And I also got to work closely with her because she was also my athletic trainer. So as a softball player, I got to work with her closely.
Okay,
as
gotcha.
a softball player with very bum ankles, I got to work with her closely.
Sure, nice.
Yeah.
Nice, very cool. Okay, so then you decide, okay, I'm going to go into education. Went to school at Illinois State. Shout out to the Redbirds.
ISU's in the house tonight.
ISU's big in the house tonight. What did your education kind of prepare you for now that you've been in this job for a while? How long have you been a teacher?
This is my 9th year.
Okay, 9th year. So what did your education kind of prepare you for well, and then versus like what it was kind of like a little bit of a shock to you as you kind of got into the field and started doing the job?
Got it. So definitely content. I took all the coolest science classes at ISU. Probably my favorite was ecology. Genetics was really good. Actually, my favorite class was ornithology, which is the study of birds. I'm a huge bird nerd as well.
Okay, nice.
Ooh, another plug? Can I? Is
Yeah,
it too
please.
late?
No.
I have a Facebook page called CU Bird Nerds.
Nice.
So for Champaign-Urbana, people who like to bird watch and feed birds, we do posts and nerdy stuff like that. But anyways, ornithology, so that increased my content and my hobbies. So it really did a good job preparing me in terms of understanding the content and understanding how the world works. And from cells to ecosystems, I got that science content and I can still talk about it today, although there's still a lot to learn.
Sure.
Although you don't become a good teacher until you have experience.
Sure.
My God.
Yeah.
They just cannot prepare you for it. Luckily, I did have a really great opportunity that I actually came into by accident, where I had a year-long student teaching experience versus the typical one semester.
Mm-hmm.
So I started at the U-High in Normal
Yeah.
at their fall semester, and I was with them for a whole year
Mm-hmm.
with my cooperating teacher versus the typical student teaching experience is one semester.
Mm-hmm.
So that was definitely helpful to get
Gotcha.
a couple extra months of in-classroom time to prepare for my first year of actual teaching.
Is it almost intimidating being not that much older or like in the classrooms with kids that are, I mean, again, when you're doing that as a college student, you're like, I was in these hallways years ago.
My God. Yeah. So at the time I was 21 and some of my classes had 18-year-olds.
Yeah, right.
Yep. And so they're taller than me and, they have these attitudes. They're like, I'm not going to take her seriously.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was a big obstacle.
Yeah.
I would say even my first year teaching, so now I'm 22,
but
I'm teaching freshmen, so there's a bigger age gap. But still, if a student found out my age, she would be like, that's my sister's age, so that kind of was a big shock to them.
Whenever I was, this is a side note, but it made me think of it. So for a while, I was Corny Cornbelter, the mascot for the Cornbelters. We had to go into some type of school event, and I can't even remember. It was not U-High. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But I had to walk into those hallways as Corny Cornbelter, and I can remember. I was so glad that I was behind a gigantic suit because I was just assaulted by these kids. Just like you could hear words, and you're just like, "Oh my God, what am I doing back here?" Was I this kid to someone at some point? Because I could just—it's like a little bit intimidating. Where kids, just not being that much older than them, but you're also like out now. You too. Anyway, okay, gotcha. So that prepared you well. Then you had really cool content. By the time you got to the job, kind of had some really neat things lined up for your students. What has changed between the time that you started now, or the time that you started and now, right? You've been doing it 9 years. What has been like a kind of a big shift from the beginning of your career to now?
Definitely a shift in mindset. Definitely a shift in understanding of our community's demographics. Definitely a better understanding of people's culture. I did not take that into account my first couple of years of teaching. It took a long time. I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago, middle class, majority white. So it took a really long time to be able to accommodate my students who don't look like me. And Central and my colleagues and our administrators have done a really nice job supporting teachers and educating teachers about how to support our Black and Brown students. So that was big for me. Also understanding how to teach students who have lived with trauma. That's a big thing. So I think between those two things, just having a better understanding of what happens to students outside of school, whereas I went in to teaching thinking, every single student I'm going to teach is going to love my class and is going to get A's.
Yeah, right.
What? No.
Yeah.
So I get to support students' social emotional learning. I get to support their content learning. And really, my classes turn into a mix of both.
Yeah.
It really has. Ultimately, the grade at the end of the semester is a biology grade or is an anatomy grade, but I along the way, get to support them in other ways.
Right.
And that was probably my biggest shift.
Yeah.
Before, it was all about the grade.
Yeah.
All about the work. I took it personally if they didn't do homework or bombed a test. Oh, yeah, I didn't even study. What? Because I was such a good student.
Yeah.
I loved school.
Right.
And so I've shifted from taking offense to trying to understand.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, again, that's one of those things where I didn't grow up in the Chicago suburbs, but similar, situation where I was a super small school. The idea of, I was telling Veronica before we started, I knew every kid in my graduating class's middle name, I knew their parents. So it was super duper small. So the idea of being like a bigger school, or one where there's maybe some income disparities between, or just it was hard for me having, 2-parent household. I was very, very, very fortunate to have the upbringing that I had and the family support. So I can remember in high school seeing, not even high school, junior high, all of that, seeing kids act out and being like, dude, what is up with this kid? Like, like
Were
this
you a good kid
this kid
in
sucks.
school?
Was I a good kid?
Yeah.
No, I was a troublemaker. I think I know that I got voted most attentions my freshman year, and I think I led the school.
My God.
Yeah, not bad. Again, mischief. Nothing crazy.
Harmful.
Nothing harmful. Just all, just dumb, like
Goofy.
teenage boy stuff where my teachers would be like, dude, like I have to put you in detention. I'm like, I know. I forced your hand. And again, so I was, but my grades weren't bad, right? Like, I think that I was one of those kids where my teachers were probably like, if I could just get you to apply yourself at all,
Yeah.
type of kid. And I always had fun at school. Like I wanted to be there. Like that was one of the things. I wasn't one of those kids who was like, this shit sucks. Get me out of here right now. I hate this. I always loved going to school, hanging with my friends, doing all the fun stuff, even if I got into a little bit of mischief. So when I would see kids who were like bad kids, right? Where they were like there to cause harm, or they were like, bullies or something like that. It was always like, dude, this kid's an asshole.
Yeah.
And then you get a couple of years down the road, you kind of start to see a little bit more of the family stuff, and you're like, oh, there's so much more
That
there.
makes sense. There's layers.
It's a symptom, like their actions of something that's going on, rather than that just being like, being like a bad egg or something like
Absolutely.
that, right?
It's a manifestation of so many different things, and we can't look at a kid who's acting out and say, oh, you're just bad.
Yeah.
You are just bad.
Yeah.
No, that's most often not the case.
But how do you deal with like that social emotional part when it's like you've got them for 45 minutes or whatever the amount of time is, and then like they go back out into the world? Like, how do you, even as a teacher, try to make like that quick connection? Not only like, hey, I'd like you to like focus on what I'm trying to teach you here, but also like, I'm here to help you type of thing. Because it always kind of felt like as as a kid being like, it's almost like us versus them. Like this teacher's trying to keep me down, with the ones that you didn't really get along with. But every now and then one would get through, and you're kind of like, I like this person.
Yeah, I definitely make an extra effort to get to know kids on a personal level. In fact, these last 2 days in my freshman biology classes, especially because my rosters have switched up a little bit at the semester and I have some new kids, we've taken 2 whole days of classes just like getting to either like re-know each other or really know each other, because I do have some of those new students asking each other questions. They can ask me questions. Okay, what are your interests? What do you do outside of school? Just to get a little sneak peek.
Yeah.
And then we can continue to build on that relationship building throughout the semester. There's also a really cool new thing at Central that I have been a part of the planning and implementation of, and that is that a class that we call advisory for freshmen and sophomore students. It splits their lunch. We just adopted a social emotional learning curriculum. So they get explicit curriculum and explicit lessons and coping mechanisms and skills to help support that type of learning. So it's explicitly taught now for our freshmen and sophomores, and I think that's huge.
Yeah, you noticing an impact from it?
I think so.
Yeah.
Other teachers have come to me and said that their students have quoted some of the skills and some of the mechanisms that they're being taught in this advisory class during their content classes. In an ideal world, it would be seamless.
Yeah.
There would be, in a content class, also some SEL explicitly taught.
Right.
That's the thing, is research suggests that it has to be explicitly taught.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of those things that I wouldn't even, as someone who's like, I'm not an educator, I'm not even great at like teaching stuff. I struggle with teaching anything that I'm not super passionate about in general, but I've always kind of wondered how you would form those connections. I would think as a teacher, there are some kids that like day one, you're really looking at an uphill battle, right? I know I have friends who have kids in high school, and there'll be one particular was just talking to him today, and he was saying, son has a couple of AP courses. Those kids are engaged. They're there to learn.
Yeah.
They're excited about it. And he has a couple of classes that are not AP. And he said there's 6 or 7 kids in the class, hood up, earbuds in, basically just getting through, just running out the clock before they can go home. And he's like, the teachers have a hard time really spending time trying to get them involved, because at this point, like they've almost like made the decision, like, I'm not going to participate, I'm not here. And you know, she's like, do I focus more time trying to bring them back in, or the ones that really are here trying to learn? How do you kind of deal with that?
So we get to make that decision later in the semester. Right now, everybody gets a fresh
Sure.
start.
Oh yeah.
Can you repeat your question?
It's just kind of like, is there any type of strategy for teachers on the kids that really, you know, they kind of come in day one, you kind of get the vibe like they're just not here for long, or they don't want to be here? Like, is there anything that can kind of be done by, like, the teachers have any type of resources or anything like that for those types of kids at all?
We're a little low on the resources side of things. That's because of the labor shortage that education is facing right now. But in terms of what teachers can do, community involvement is great. For me right now, that just kind of looks like making calls home. I used to hate calling home. Now I actually really like it. And 9 times out of 10, I would say actually 99 times out of 100, whoever I reach at home is extremely supportive and grateful that I reached out. Hey, you know, so-and-so had their head down in class. I just wanted to see if they're doing okay. And then we just kind of talk from there.
Yeah.
So just the fact that their teacher took time to call their adults at home, and then their adults can talk to the student, and then we sometimes see an improvement from there. And I mean, there are other resources we have. We have social workers, we have psychologists, we have tier 2, tier 3 supports available at school. But it really does start from recognizing those warning signs in that first week of hoods up, heads down, things like that, to try to figure out what's going on.
Interesting. Okay, so tell me, because this is a question that, and this is not how we would have grown up, you are now also dealing with so much. It used to be when you went to school, you had your engagement with the students. When you walked out those doors, that was over.
Yeah.
Now, everyone's kind of carrying that relationship on, all of those different relationships, positive or negative. You were dealing with being a teacher in the age of social media, where you have students who are being bullied online, or they are dealing with all of the weird comparison stuff from the bullshit that they'll see on Instagram, blah, 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 whatever it is. So much of that is now on the minds of 14, 15, 16, teenagers, kids. Yeah. What has that kind of been like, and what are you seeing from that as a teacher? I know that there was a TikTok challenge that went around recently with bathrooms and stuff that were destroyed. What are you kind of seeing from that as an educator?
The bathroom challenge hit us hard.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What exactly had happened? Just like...
So daily, our bathrooms were being destroyed. Like the soap dispensers were being torn off, and the toilets and all that. It was awful. Yeah. It was truly a mess. And I was really, really scared of that next month, because I believe it was slap a teacher.
Oh,
I never got slapped.
Oh my God.
I don't think anybody did at my school. But yeah, the TikTok challenges is really unsettling.
Yeah.
But I think what I really need to say is that our teenagers' addiction to their phones is extremely upsetting.
Really?
I truly believe that those devices have been designed in a way to become addicted to them, and it's worked.
Yeah.
And it also doesn't help that we forced our students, the pandemic forced our students to be on screens for a whole year in order to be promoted to the next grade. And so that was their world. That's how they interacted with their classmates and their teachers for almost a whole year, was through a screen.
Right.
And so that was their default, like, social interaction. And so now they still have their phones, and they're still addicted to their phones.
Yeah.
I mean, an example, because I always like to do hard resets on phone policy at the beginning of the semester. So that's kind of where I am right now. Whereas like December, I'm like, burned out as can be. I might have let a couple things slide. But like now that I'm doing my hard reset, it's like, all right, guys, pocket or backpack. That's my rule. I'll step out to say something to a colleague, and then I come back and they're all out again.
Yeah.
It's like they have 10 seconds of no stimulation, so they need to get it from their screens, and it's extremely troubling. I would also say that cell phones played a major part in like some of the fights, and then even the hard lockdown we had last semester, because we had this toxic cycle of filming fights and sharing fights, and it's all over Snapchat and this and that, and it was, like I said, there's just this toxic cycle of, oh, I didn't see it, but now I'm going to watch it on repeat on my phone. And that's not healthy.
No.
That is not healthy.
No.
It's not healthy as it is to spend too much time on your phone, let alone to be watching content with such negative, violent energy.
I can remember, because when we were kids, like if you didn't have like a computer lab, you didn't really have access to high speed internet, right? So I can remember like E-Bombs World or Kill Some Time, like those websites. And there's something, I don't know what it is, but you see these fight videos and I don't know what it does to you chemically, but like people will watch them, especially when they're younger. And I can remember getting older and being like, I don't like watching street fights at all right now. And I will watch like the UFC. That doesn't bother me. It's like a sanctioned fight between two consenting grown people. That doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
I hate seeing high school fights or, like street fights. All of that shit just does not do it for me the same way
It really
anymore.
upsets me.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't like it at all. Yeah. And I would think that it being recorded, because that's also like that part, because then it is on social media. And now these kids are taking it with them, where it's like, oh, great, this video of me getting into a fight's on the internet and I lost. What am I going to do about it now? All of that dumb teenage, and I'm assuming it happens. I don't know. I've never been a woman, but I know that it happens with men, that stupid machismo when you're a, adrenaline-filled, weird, chemically imbalanced teenager where you're, still going through all of that stuff. So that's hard. Yeah. And I figured that would be a challenging part of it.
Yeah. And it also creates an obstacle when our kids are filming fights so that adults can't come in and like intervene. So it creates like a physical barrier as well. Man,
gosh.
That was crazy. That was crazy.
Yeah, that sucks. So I know a big change that had happened, and I assume that it's positive, although it is also like a little bit of a shame, but Central just got metal detectors yesterday.
Yeah.
What has that kind of been like? Like, what has the atmosphere been like in terms of that now being just part of everyday life, right?
Yeah. So I asked my first hour class yesterday, like, hey, how was it coming in? And they said, oh, it's a pain to have to take my Chromebook out. But it was quick. That's all they said. And I didn't press it any further in case that experience was upsetting to them. That's all they had to say. Yeah. Based on my experience, it's far more efficient than we had one day of wanding. And that just caused lines around the block, and kids hardly made it to first hour, if at all. So if we're going to implement these safety measures, it feels like we're heading in a more efficient direction.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Has it felt different? Right. I mean, you were just there. I mean, it's only been 2 days, right? But
it's been 2 days. Things have been calm as far as I know.
What's the general consensus from teachers? Like, I mean, I would think that would be like, at least not having that in your mind of that being a possibility while you were at school is positive.
It is comforting.
Almost a little bit of a shame, though, to be like, I can't believe that this was necessary.
It's hard to be fully comforting.
Yeah.
Because you just said it. I can't believe that we're here as a community, that we need to put up this infrastructure, like, to make sure that we're safe.
Yeah, that part's hard. I mean,
so a little bittersweet.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, again, I think it's a positive change, and I'm glad to know that the students and the teachers that are in there can not have the idea of there being some type of active shooter.
Yeah, I hope we can spin it towards that. Be like, hey, your safety is our priority. The safety of our teachers and administrators is our priority, and this can increase those chances.
Right. Yeah. Again, I think it's a positive thing, albeit a little bit of like, a shame.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to talk because I think that one thing that any parent's dealing with is pandemic in school.
Yep.
Right. What was that shift like as you were going through it? I saw it. I mean, again, we both saw it as parents of kids that are, in school. What was it like as a teacher, and what kind of challenges did you face trying to reach kids? You've already got a crop of kids that are going to be challenging to reach in person, and now you've got them to where you're not with them. They may not log on. What was that kind of like, just as a educator?
Yeah. I'll start by talking about when we were fully remote, which was for 3 quarters of last school year. And while I was comforted to know that we were safe health-wise, it was an extremely, extremely lonely experience. In high school, all of my students, they had their cameras off, and it was really hard for them to hard for me to get them to engage with me.
Yeah.
So I felt like I was just teaching to a bunch of circles.
Right.
Right. So that was a very lonely experience. I still
Mhm.
got my fix to talk about, science, and you still had your same group of kids who did engage and will engage and, would respond to me in the chat and things like that. And the kids, I feel like, who would pass in-person school, pass remote learning, those bubble kids might have leaned towards the not passing during remote learning because, there were these loopholes where it's like, oh, I just need to sign in to be marked present.
Right.
Got it.
Sure.
So there were definitely cases of logging in and walking away or logging in and going back to sleep, which is sad.
Yeah.
It is really sad. We missed them. We missed them a whole lot. You know what upsets me though is that folks are saying, "Oh, our kids lost a year of education and a year of learning." I'm like, excuse me? Did I just get a year off of vacation and nobody told me?
Yeah.
I've been working this whole last
Yeah.
year. Like, in fact, it's probably been the hardest year of my career. Like, we tried. We tried really hard.
Oh, yeah.
And for the kids who were on and engaged, learning took place. It was different, but learning took place for sure. And then we went to hybrid for fourth quarter, which was still hard because I had maybe 3 or 4 kids in person, everybody else back at home.
Yep.
So it was like almost here a little bit because I'm communicating with you and we're communicating with our viewers, you know, so just kind of doing that balancing act in addition to teaching to wrap up that school year. Oof, that was interesting. I wouldn't want hybrid again.
Yeah.
I know things aren't looking good in our community pandemic wise and remote may be on the horizon again. Just please don't make me do hybrid again.
Right. Sure. Yeah. We had, Nash has always been, he's like school. It was hard to watch him whenever he was doing the distance stuff because he craved that social interaction.
It had to have been so hard for young children.
Yeah. I couldn't imagine having to have gone through that. There was one time where Kelsey and I were like, that's it. We have to send him back. It was the middle of winter and he had done like his distance learning and, Kelsey had to work at that time. She was still working. So she's like, she can't give him all the attention. She has a career and expectations for her income. And our 2 youngest were at daycare. And at one point, Nash, the music was playing really loud in his room. And Kelsey popped down there. It was freezing in his room. And she's like, what's going on? And kind of looked in there. And he was like, I put the Alexa in the window hoping someone would like walk by and maybe notice me. And we were like, oh my God. We were like, that's it. As soon as he's able to go back, we've got to get him back in there because he's craving that and there's nowhere for him to go. And it was just hard to watch. I think there were some people that were fish in water. They're introverts. They were glad to be able, and even career-wise, right? Like I know adults that were like, this is the best thing. Like I love working from home. I now have the ability to do that. I can still do my job. I don't have to go in. They don't like all the social stuff. I was the opposite to where like, I love my interactions with people. And I think that Nash was that same way. And, as soon as we were able to get him back in, we were happy to. I'm not, again, I know that it may be necessary. And if it is, we can do it, especially now that Kelsey is not working, right? That's a big deal.
Yeah.
Because now she can put more attention into what he's doing. But
I wouldn't have been able to support Nora with her distance learning. Yeah. So it was first grade.
Yeah.
And I was on a computer all day doing my job. And I don't feel like I would have done a good enough job supporting Nora on her computer all day.
Yeah.
So we were really lucky to have that opportunity to send her to Sprouts outside school.
Yeah.
Which, but we paid for it.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
So, pros and cons.
Yeah, definitely.
But she's, back at Unit 4 now. And I think she is finally, believe it or not, I mean, it's January, finally, I think, settling into it a little bit. It took a long time.
Yeah, I would
It took
think
a long
so.
time. Like sit in a desk. There were no desks at Sprouts, her nature school for first grade. So, getting back into it was tough.
What would she say, like, when she, like, what kind of symptoms did you notice when she went back that she didn't have before, where she was, like, uneasy about it, not really feeling it the same way that she was?
Missing mom and dad.
Oh, yeah.
Missing mom and dad. And even her teacher made note of it at parent-teacher conferences that she would be teary, missing mom and dad. It would always be the opposite parent of whoever was parenting that week. She would become sad about it. And she would also be a little, she would fib sometimes to try to maybe, I don't know, gain sympathy. Like, oh, you're having a hard time at school. Okay, let's figure something out.
Right.
My teacher is mean to me. And so I said, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Let me call her and get this straightened up right now.
Yeah.
She's like, well,
you don't have to do all
maybe
that,
she's
Mom.
not that
Yeah,
mean.
exactly.
So part of it, I do feel like, the feelings she feels are real.
Yeah.
But and also she's still probably feeling very confused about everything.
Right.
I mean, her last 2 years of experience and memories have been clouded by the pandemic.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine what that would be like as
Yeah.
a 7-year-old.
No, me neither. Yeah, like I said, it was, it's just hard to imagine your youth being shifted in that way, right? Where every day you're hanging with friends, doing all the cool stuff.
Don't forget your mask.
Yep, exactly. Now it's don't forget your mask, like, all of the weird things that you kind of have to do. Now that it wasn't like that whenever we were kids. And makes that hard as a parent too.
Yeah.
Trying to manage that stuff. Like I want my kid to have as much of an authentic, normal childhood as possible, and that's just not what he's getting or what he's going to get because of kind of where we're at here. And it's hard to know what to do as a parent to try and I want to be cautious. I don't want him to catch COVID. I want him to have social interaction.
Absolutely.
I want him to be around kids.
I know.
Finding that balance is hard.
Near impossible.
Yeah, it really is. It really is, without taking some type of risk one way or another, right? Like,
Yeah.
are they not getting enough of the social stuff? Or is he going to end up catching COVID? Would they get real sick from that?
It's a little, I sometimes feel feelings of hopelessness.
I think everyone kind of does.
And so I still am trying to, and I'm seeking help to try to figure that out. Like, what am I supposed to do with these feelings when I don't see a bright future?
Yeah.
And the only thing that has come to me right now is faith in science and trust in science. And if we look back at history, I'm not an expert, but there have been pandemics before that don't exist now.
Sure. Right.
So
yeah.
it won't be forever, right?
No, it definitely won't.
No.
But gosh, when you're in it, it sure feels like it, right? When you're staring down, like, we don't have a lot of great solutions right now.
Yeah.
Like, that part is what sucks. And eventually there will be solutions. But
Yeah.
gosh, while you're in the thick of it like we are right now, you're like, well, this has been going on for a long time, and I'm not really seeing a great end on the horizon here.
Yeah.
But,
Yep.
so I have a couple of more questions for you here.
Great.
Back to kind of what you're seeing from being an educator, a lot more of the virtual stuff. So questions would be, what can parents do, right? What can I as a parent do to better support my student, regardless of what their age is? How can I help them? What can we do to not only promote their learning, make the teacher's life easier, make their life better? What's some good suggestions for parents that can kind of promote a better learning environment and just get more out of the education? If we were to go virtual, or just even with them being in person right now, what are some things parents can do?
Thank you for asking.
Sure.
Because parent and guardian involvement is huge. So I think my suggestion is taking a look at what your kids are doing in school, and I can speak from a high schooler teacher perspective. What assignments are you working on? When are the due dates? Because juggling that for high schoolers is still hard.
Yeah.
I would say the biggest downfall in high school grades are missing assignments.
Yeah.
So parent support for staying on top of assignments is huge.
Yeah.
And then also just even if there's a teeny tiny question, email teachers.
Yeah.
We love hearing from parents. And I can't speak for every teacher, but email is the quickest and easiest way to get in touch.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And I've had parents reach out to me and just say hey, do you need anything? And that was so comforting.
Yeah.
Just to know that they were there and
Right.
thinking about me. I also knew that, their students were supported.
Yeah.
Yes. So I would just say being on top of their learning, ask them what they're learning about, ask them about their classes.
Yeah.
You know, because I asked Nora, how was school? Good.
Right, dude. I think I was thinking that exact same thing as you were talking.
The specific questions.
Yeah.
So what I like to do with Nora, what are 2 good things that happened today? What's 1 bad thing that happened? That way I get specifics.
Yeah.
I even had to do that with my teenagers. Like, hey, what's something you're interested in?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, well, what did you do after school yesterday? So like being more specific with questions can really increase support, I would say.
What do we do? Like if you could have a conversation with parents before you get into like the phone age, right? Right now, Nash does not have a phone. I'm assuming Nora does not have a phone. What do you do? Because I think that my wife and I will be zealots when it comes to this stuff, where it's like I see so much of the impact of it, and even in myself, I know that I can be on my phone too much. It happens to me. We have more information now. We can see the kind of effects that has on kids. What do you think as a teacher, again, because you're kind of seeing the impact of it on students more than what I would, is I can only see my one kid. You're seeing crops of them coming through every single year. What do you think is the right answer on something like that?
For phones? Well, I mean, I called a parent today about phones, and he's a professor at the university. And he was so upset with his son. Like, I can't believe this is a problem. He knows better. He loves your class. What is he doing on your phone? I said, I don't know. I'm just trying to do my job here. He goes, well, I don't want to take it away. I said, okay. Well, can you talk to him about, responsible use? I mean, my rule, like I said, pocket or backpack. So as much as I can say it in class, they just also need to hear it at home. And I feel like Nora my 7-year-old is already teetering on that. The first thing she asks for during free time is TV and tablet. Like, oh no.
I know.
Oh no. We just had Christmas, girlfriend. You have all these new toys. Let's play. Let's figure out. Let's read. Let's do all these other things. So I think also parents and guardians can prioritize other ways to be entertained and to be stimulated over devices. And like you said, I have to keep myself in check too, because man, those things, they suck you in.
They really do.
But that's how they were designed to be.
Oh yeah. I think that they're doing all that they were intended to do. It's just weird because I didn't have it. It wasn't a thing when I was a kid. I didn't have it when I was 7.
No.
I didn't
and
exist
when
I was 8.
even in high school, when I had my weird flip phone T9 texting, I was terrified to have it out in class.
Oh, sure.
Terrified. I'm like, ooh, I'm going to text
You used to get in trouble.
I'm going to text my boyfriend.
Yeah.
They would take it.
Yeah.
They would take it. You would lose it.
Oh, yeah.
And because now we've gone from these cheap plastic devices to these $1,200 practically small computers, we don't get to take them.
Right.
And so that makes it really hard. I also think educating them about technology use is extremely important. Here's what screen addiction does to your brain and does to your mental health. So like bringing that awareness. I think you watched that documentary about social media.
The Social Dilemma? Yeah.
So like just bringing awareness to what is going on, I think can be empowering as well.
Totally. Yeah. I just don't think that I want my children on social, like having a phone's one thing, having an Instagram or a TikTok or that stuff. I just don't know if I want it in their lives prior to like becoming a young adult. Like I don't want my 13 or 14-year-old to have full access to, the internet because it's so confusing, right? It's so hard, especially on their little brains that are growing, so.
Children don't watch this, do they?
No.
Okay.
No.
Because like the other day, Nora was YouTubing videos about elves on the shelves.
Yeah.
And like I caught out of the corner of my eye, like a kid saying, look, I'm holding it. It's fake. And I'm like, oh,
no.
That's so sad. You stop that.
Yeah.
Now, I do teach like internet literacy as part of my course.
Okay, nice.
To be able to discern good, reliable information from the not so good misinformation, disinformation.
Sure.
So just again, further educating things about that I think is
Yeah.
really empowering and
Mhm.
does give me a little shred of hope.
Sure, that's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, listen, if you need an ally in keeping your kids off of their phones and all of that, I swear.
I saw your post asking for strategies.
Yeah.
Did you get any good ones?
Yeah. I mean, again, we've already just like basically with the holidays, like the
Yeah.
screen time rules and stuff like that, they go out the window.
For
and it's like,
sure.
We're locked, so we have to try and get back on track. But you can already see the warning signs coming down the pipeline of like, it's too much, right? And again, Nash wants to play like NBA 2K on his Nintendo Switch. I really feel like that's harmless. Like I'm not worried about that the same way I am because I would play video games when I was a kid. The problem with like the TV now is like it used to be when you flipped your TV on, sometimes the shows just sucked and you didn't have an option. There was like I could go watch this other show that am not into. Now they have the entirety of Netflix that they can go flip through, so it's impossible not to find.
The options are endless.
Exactly, it's impossible not to find something to like kill your time with. But I think that I will delay social media as long as like I can get away with, and I will go to school board meetings and try and rally other parents to be like, if we all, this is like, it's almost like a hold the line situation. Like as soon as this starts to, you don't want your kid to be the only one that doesn't have it. If you can get like, well, I don't have it, but neither does like my buddy, right? Like at least these two dudes who I'm super close with don't have it either. So like we can kind of commiserate together, which fine. Like, like my parents suck. Like my parents suck too. I'm fine with that. That's totally fine with me. But it's so hard. I didn't really have much social media until I was like 18.
Same.
And that was great. That's a fine age. I still used it probably inappropriately. I know I did as an 18-year-old, but I had a little bit more understanding of who I was, and that made it a little bit easier, I think, to use it responsibly compared to if I was like 14.
Yeah.
I don't think that you understand the permanence of the internet.
I was just going to say that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. It is so permanent.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you feel like it's deleted, it's probably not.
It's out there somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And these kids are going to play for jobs someday.
Right.
So that's another way, another like lens I try to teach through in terms of controlling technology addiction is like, hey, no matter if you're going to college or not, your first job's not going to let you sit on your phones while you're being paid.
Mm-hmm.
You see me, if I was on my phone while I was teaching you, A, you would get mad at me. B, you wouldn't learn anything. C, I'd probably get fired.
Yeah, sure.
So this is a professional environment. We're practicing it right now.
Mm-hmm.
You might be 14, but you're going to be out in the job field.
Yeah.
In a blink of an eye. It goes by so fast.
Yeah.
So let's start practicing now.
That's good
Same
advice.
thing with cussing. There's no cussing allowed. There's no cussing at your job.
Right.
Why can you cuss here?
Sure. That makes sense. And sorry for cursing. I feel like I am sitting across from a teacher.
Oh, no.
Well, you know what?
I was talking about my class. You can cuss here.
I got that student vibe where it's like, no, I shouldn't have cussed in front of this teacher. It wasn't cool.
I have an incredible cuss switch.
You can turn it off?
I've never cussed in class.
Mm-hmm.
But I cuss a lot at home.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I don't think that I ever cussed much whenever I was actually in school. I have the privilege of being able to do so with some of my adult customers who will, especially if they will like initiate it. I'm
yeah.
like, okay,
if they cuss first, you know you're good.
Yeah. Like that's probably okay.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to, so this is the last question I've got for you. What advice would you give to your 16-year-old self about like your future career in education, right? To kind of better prepare yourself, or just advice for your 16-year-old self kind of in general?
In general, because the advice I would give myself as a 16-year-old interested in science would be there are more careers in science other than going into education.
Gotcha.
To me, maybe it was because I'm female or maybe because nobody I looked up to was actually doing science. It never occurred to be an option for me. Mm-hmm. So while I don't have any like huge regrets going into education, I do wish someone or even myself realized that going into field science or research was an option. So I can actually go out and do science instead of teach about it.
Right.
I think that would be my suggestion, my advice to my 16-year-old self is like, think about all your options.
Yeah.
Are you really passionate about this information? Do you want to know more? Because that is also a career option.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
Yeah.
That makes sense and is a good one. My wife talks about all the time, where we grew up in Southern Illinois, there weren't as many career options. And it was kind of like, if you were a dude who's like, military sound good or coal mines? What are you kind of preferring there? And for my wife, it was like, well, listen, you go into nursing, right? Like, that's just what you do. You want to get out? We've got a nursing program here. Like, everyone's just going to graduate high school. And if you're going to go to school, you're probably going to become a nurse, right? Like, that's just what we saw a lot of. So I think that she feels the exact same way. And she's like, I feel like silly for not even realizing that there were so many other options.
I know.
Right? Whereas like there was a million other things that I could have done. And you kind of like, once you're on that path, you don't usually get off, right?
That would be another shift I would like to see at the secondary level, is like more career cruising, more skill building. We do have phenomenal like technical classes, welding, wood shop, business, and like really phenomenal art programs, cooking, parenting, all those things. But I would like to see, even in my classes, a little bit more education about possible careers and stuff. I could definitely do a better job of it in anatomy, because a lot of my students in anatomy are taking my class because they're interested in going into maybe, I don't know, do I want to be a physical therapist or occupational therapist? Do I want to, nurse babies or the elderly? So definitely making sure they know their options is huge. Yeah. And then like just other life skills that are important once they get out of college. Like, can we please teach kids how to do taxes?
Right. Yeah, no joke.
Can we please do that?
Yes.
That should be a thing.
Yeah.
And budgeting, I think a little bit of that gets taught in business classes. But yeah, there's still so much room for growth.
Right.
We're just pretty limited by meeting standards and state tests.
Sure.
I would love just a smidge more flexibility.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be great. It could really pay off.
Yeah.
And who knows, maybe that advisory class I was talking about, maybe we could kind of incorporate it into that, since we do have a lot of flexibility there. That just came to me.
Nice. Good. Well, glad we got something out of it then here, right? Hey, listen, before I get you out of here, and again, thank you for coming on. It's been great to hear from you. I think that parents want to hear from teachers, right? We want to know kind of what's coming. How can we better help? Before you get out of here, promote your stuff one more time.
Can I also, because I feel like a lot of what we've talked about has been the hard stuff.
Yeah.
I also would like to promote that I do truly have some awesome kids and some awesome parents and some awesome colleagues.
Sure.
Things look dark, and they are, and they can be, but I've seen also so much resilience, and so many of my students and my colleagues deserve a huge shout out for going on this crazy journey of the school year together with me. Smiles, hugs with consent.
Right,
My students ask, can I hug you?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
After a year of being home, there is that joy that is being brought to students of being back in person, even if things are a little bit different.
Yeah.
So with all the security changes and things, there still are some really great things going on in schools.
That's good.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you brought it back to a positive thing. Because even in this podcast, I was thinking like I wanted to raise like some awareness on some of the hardships and ways that we can kind of better support teachers who have, your job is so much harder than mine. I think on a day-to-day basis, I know it is. I would be terrible at what you do, and I know that, and it's, I think, significantly harder than what mine is, especially proportionally to what a lot of like teachers get compensated for. Like, like that's, again, I don't think fair, and hopefully something that'll change in the future, but it is what it is. But I'm glad that you brought it back to something positive, because again, like I said, I knew that there had to have been something positive out there, but even right now, it can be harder to see,
Yeah. So thanks for giving me a space to do that.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
I did get to give a shout out to my student Nicole and Calicia. Hello. And then I just want to promote my YouTube channel that I'm starting. It's called Mimi's Garden on YouTube. Just started it, so be patient with me, folks. More content coming. I hope to do about 1 episode a week. My next one's going to be about amaryllis. Do you know what an amaryllis
No, tell me.
is? It's a beautiful bulb that you get to keep inside as a house plant. And if you plant it in about October, it sends up this great big stem and then these big, beautiful flowers.
We had one at our house. I didn't realize that's what it was called. It's like a big red bulb in ours.
Oh, so yours is dipped in wax?
It must be because it also had glitter on it. And I'm assuming that they
yeah.
don't come that way
Not in nature.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, nice.
Yep. So in my next video, I have mine that's in bloom. It was a little late after Christmas. If you time it right, you'll have Christmas blooms. And then I have one that's unplanted. So I'll take you through that journey. My first video was about seeds and my seed inventory.
Nice.
There's a lot of fun things you can still do off season. So that's kind of where I'm at right now with my content. So
Gotcha.
Mimi's Garden. See you bird nerds on Facebook. We'd love to have you.
Gotcha. Nice. Well, listen, thank you again for coming on, doing the podcast with us. Thank you to everyone who has tuned in and for watching, and we will see you guys next time.